I'm speaking to you today from Bondi Beach, but not the carefree Bondi we know now, alive with surfers, joggers, and families. No, this is Bondi as it stood over 80 years ago, when war blackened the skies and fear clung to these golden sands. In September 1939, when Australia entered the Second World War, life here didn't change overnight. Swimmers still crowded the surf. Lifeguards still watched from their towers. But beneath the sunlit surface, something was shifting. By 1940, Bondi and its neighbors, North Bondi, Bellevue Hill, Rose Bay, began to transform. Men and women enlisted. The Bondi Surf Bathers Life-Saving Club lost dozens of its finest. Their places were taken by older members, teenagers, and for the first time, women who patrolled the beach. Then came the barbed wire, the tank traps, the machine gun nests and concrete bunkers, a paradise prepared for war. Along Military Road and Old South Head Road, gun emplacements rose. Searchlights scanned the sea, and children once carefree along Glen Avenue practiced air raid drills in schoolyards. The Bondi Pavilion, once filled with music and dance, became a civil defense hub. Residents trained for fires, bombings, gas attacks. Blackout orders followed. Streets went dark. Windows were covered. Headlights slitted. Bondi braced itself. Then came the attack. May 31st, 1942, the night of the midget submarines. Off Sydney's coast, 3 Japanese submarines waited. Under cover of night, they launched. One was tangled in anti-sub nets. One destroyed, but one, the M24, slipped through. It fired 2 torpedoes at the USS Chicago. They missed, but struck tragedy. HMS Kutable, a converted ferry, was torn apart. 21 sailors were killed. The shockwave was felt across Bondi. Rumors spread. Patrols were mobilized. Fear spread faster than fire. June 8, 1942, the night the shells fell. In the early hours, 2 Japanese submarines, I-21 and I-24, surfaced off the coast. At 0014 hours, I-24 launched its attack on Sydney, while I-21 shelled Newcastle. Shells rained down on the eastern suburbs, Rose Bay, Bellevue Hill, and Bondi. Explosions tore through 3 Plumer Road and 67 Balfour Road in Rose Bay, 4 and 6 Bradley Avenue and 9 Bunula Road in Bellevue Hill, and at the corner of Small and Fletcher Streets. Other shells landed unexploded at Mannion Avenue and Beresford Road in Rose Bay, and at 34 Simpson Street in Bondi. There was property damage, minor injuries, but no fatalities. An inventory, compiled by the chief warden and tabled at the council meeting that very day, listed the devastation. Unexploded shell at 26 Mannion Avenue, explosions at 4 and 6 Bradley Avenue, 3 Plumer Road, the corner of Small and Fletcher Streets, 67 Balfour Road, and 9 Bunula Road. Shell fragment at 68 Streetfield Road, electric wires down at 4 Salisbury Road, and 2 unknown shells on the golf links. In a recent publication, A Parting Shot, authors Terry Jones and Stephen Carruthers revealed that a shell may still be buried under the Royal Sydney Golf Course in Kent Road. Shrapnel rained on Military Road. Residents huddled in shelters. Artillery fired blindly from Dover Heights cliffs, lighting up the night sky. No one died that night, but the terror was real, and for the people of Bondi, the war had truly arrived. In the days that followed, life endured under the shadow of war. Searchlights swept the sky from Ben Buckler and Vaucluse. Patrols marched along Campbell Parade. Children went to school. Surf clubs trained by day and watched by night. And then, the tide began to turn. By 1944, defenses were dismantled, barbed wire removed, beaches reopened, music returned to the pavilion, surf carnivals resumed. But the scars remained, in stone, in stories, in silence. Some buildings still bore cracks from those shells. Some names never came home. And today, as we walk these sands, it's easy to forget that Bondi was once a front line, but the stories live on. Beneath the surf, in the cliffs, and in the hearts of those who remember, Bondi stood strong, and we remember it still. Ken Clift, 1916 to 2009. Very few people get to die twice, but Ken Clift was one of them. Officially, his first death came in 1943 in England. the second much later in Sydney. It all began with a simple act of friendship. Clift gave his passport to Tom Baker, a mate in trouble after a divorce. Baker went to New Zealand, enlisted in the Air Force, and was sent to England. In 1943, Baker's plane disappeared over the Thames, leaving behind a widow, an unborn son, and a mystery that wouldn't be solved until the wreckage was found 40 years later. The news reached Australia, and suddenly the original Ken Clift had a lot of explaining to do. He started writing a book, Double Identity, about the tangled consequences of his actions. But even without this twist, Clift's life was extraordinary. Born in Sydney's eastern suburbs, Clift grew up in North Bondi. The sand dunes were his playground. He was a talented sportsman, a lifesaver, a cricketer, a rugby player, a swimmer, even an amateur boxer. When war broke out, Clift enlisted with the 2nd AIF, serving across the Middle East, North Africa, Greece, and the Kokoda Track. He led bold attacks, including one in Tobruk that earned him the Distinguished Conduct Medal for bravery. After the war, Clift's life was no less full. He worked as a draftsman, a beer plumber, and a sales manager. He wrote books and plays about his experiences and became a respected historical advisor. He was a life member of the North Bondi Surf Club and the Bondi Icebergs, and a patron of the local RSL. In 2007, the Defence Force School of Signals even named a troop in his honor. Ken Clift left behind a large family, lasting friendships, and a legacy woven into the fabric of Bondi itself. And among his friends, both Kenny Clift and Ken Hawthorne shared a deep admiration for another Bondi local, Robert Higgs. Higgs's distinguished service as a paratrooper and member of the CIC command was legendary, though to this day, the full story of his service cannot be told. His story reminds us, Bondi's resilience isn't just in buildings or beaches. It's in the people who called it home, and in those, like Ken Clift, whose lives became legends. It's now 2025, over 80 years since the shells fell and the submarines crept toward our shores, and yet, the memories of those who served are still with us. Here in Bondi, remembrance isn't just tradition, it's sacred. The old Bondi Diggers Club, once nestled off Campbell Parade, has found new life, now perched higher on the golf course, overlooking the coastline those diggers once defended. The North Bondi RSL is still standing, still proud. Once known in the 80s as the club with the $1 million view. And what a view it is. Today, the crowds are enormous. In the 1980s, a turnout of 100 was impressive. Now thousands gather. Patriotism in Bondi is not a whisper. It's a roar. The traditional two-up game, once the heartbeat of the afternoon, has evolved. Today, the atmosphere is more family-oriented, but the spirit of Anzac Day hasn't changed. Not in Bondi. At dawn, thousands gather at the North Bondi RSL for the dawn service. Waves crash behind a sea of candles and silence. Veterans stand shoulder to shoulder with teenagers, grandparents, surfers, schoolchildren, all facing the rising sun, all remembering. The last post echoes across the sand, a lone bugler, then silence, then lest we forget. Marches, barbecues, reunions, they follow. But the heart remains in the remembering. Here, beneath the cliffs of Ben Buckler and the horizon beyond, Bondi stands watch still, not with guns and searchlights, but with memory. As they say, Bondi forever. In truth, Australia forever. And to those who served and those who serve still, God bless you. In the shadow of war, Bondi was more than just a beach. It was a potential battleground. Its proximity to Sydney's eastern defences made it one of the government's points of vulnerability. Intelligence in 1942 marked Bondi, Coogee, and Botany Bay as likely landing sites if the Japanese invasion reached Australia's shores. The response was swift. Sandbags lined the promenade. One of the most enduring reminders of this era is the North Bondi gun emplacement near Ben Buckler. Less visible, but just as significant, is the gun emplacement buried beneath Hugh Bamford Oval. Concealed under the playing fields, this hidden relic is a reminder of the extensive network of defenses that once protected Bondi from the threat of invasion. But defense wasn't just the work of soldiers. Bondi residents became the eyes and ears of the coast. The Volunteer Air Observers Corps, ordinary citizens, kept watch from rooftops and beach towers, scanning for suspicious aircraft and vessels. At Bondi Public School, teenagers joined junior civil defense programs, learning to spot gas bombs, operate stretchers, and deliver urgent messages as part of the homefront effort. Across the suburb, public trenches zigzagged near Marks Park and the Southern Cliffs, while concrete air raid shelters sprang up behind the Pavilion and along O'Brien Street. In backyards, families dug their own bunkers, corrugated iron, sandbags, concrete slabs, some of which still exist, hidden beneath homes, silent witnesses to a community's determination. The surf clubs, so often the heart of a Bondi summer, became military hubs. Many lifeguards and members, veterans of the First World War, re-enlisted for the Second, turning beach institutions into wartime communities. Returned servicemen held briefings at the Pavilion, sharing vital knowledge about air raids and what to do if the enemy landed. The war also reshaped roles for women in Bondi. Many joined the Australian Women's Army Service or served in civil defence, manning first aid stations and volunteer patrols. Local women's auxiliaries made camouflage netting, packed care parcels, and ran emergency canteens on Hall Street and Curlewis Street, ensuring the community was strong, fed, and hopeful. These defenses, drills, and sacrifices, woven into the fabric of Bondi, remind us that the beach's beauty has always been matched by the courage of those who called it home.
We are the crew, old school crew, anti and sub, Bondi boat riders, Bondi longboarders, the hill and surf, wind and sea. Bondi hold the line, table of knowledge, John, Terry and crew, talks of past and glory. Talk the talk, walk the walk, clubby skates and the hoods, Bates Milk Bar where we meet, Vallis Milk Bar where we play. Chin surf shakes are super thick, burgers, chips, Bondi life can't be beat.